Oh. Good morning, everybody. I am Brad Gage, and I represent Taisyn Crutchfield. And with me today are a number of folks. Most important, her father, her brother, and we have a police officer who used to work with the department. And in the background, there are other family members and other retired officers from the Pasadena Police Department, and also a number of activists that I will recognize at the end. We thank you all for being here. Taisyn Crutchfield joined the Pasadena Police Department in May of 2021. She is a remarkable young woman. She was a track star. She had an NCAA record. She has both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in criminology. She happens to be Miss Eugene, Oregon, and is running for Miss America in 2024. But she's also a dedicated police officer, a woman who joined the Pasadena Police Department to help her community. She grew up in this community, and she believes strongly in helping to support and bridge gaps between members of the police department, the African American community. And we also have a lot of media here, Black media, that I also want to recognize at the end by name and thank them for being here to recognize their contributions as well. Here's what happened. Several months ago, starting in January, a man was shot and killed by the police. He happened to be African American. About a month later, his sons were upset. They were out on the street. A police officer allegedly took one of those boys, who was under 18, and allegedly put his face into a flower pot that included cactus, sharp thorns. Officer Crutchfield arrived and realized that the officer was getting out of control. So she did her police training, what she was trained, and that is she helped to de-escalate the situation by trying to gently push the officer away. He told her on words that I can't say in the press, but essentially not to touch me. After that, the sergeant came, ordered her to the station. A few weeks or months later, she then was relieved of duty. So this has been known because there are several activists who have talked about this in city hall meetings and explained how unfair it is that Taisyn Crutchfield, a Black woman who has these outstanding credentials, is being treated differently by the Pasadena Police Department than other groups of officers were treated who actually engaged in this conduct. We have a number of officers that were drinking alcohol on duty while they're carrying their police guns, wearing their uniforms. They were white. They were not relieved of duty. They are not facing any type of known discipline. Why is Taisyn Crutchfield being punished for trying to do the right thing? One of the reasons you will know is that the city of Pasadena has a history of racial profiling, it has a history of racial discrimination, and has a history of shooting of far too many Black men, including recently the brother of Michael Cooper, the Lakers star. The city of Pasadena has officers that were accused of making racial slurs and engaging in racial discrimination who now are in the higher ranks of the department. They're at command staff level as lieutenants. This is not right. Things need to change. we're here to help make a change. Taisyn, as a young officer, already started to receive recognition from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Yet, the department did not even tell her about that recognition. It did not allow her to go to the ceremony awarding her and recognizing her for her achievement in helping to get rid of drunk drivers. When you look at the city of Pasadena and law enforcement as a whole, there are far too many situations where the community has suffered, especially Black communities and brown communities. Behind me, you'll see a number of activists. Usually they are not on the side of the police officer, but they're here today in support of a police officer. And the reason is they recognize, as do I, and I think all of you should also, that Taisyn Crutchfield is a woman who's always wanted to be a police officer, who helps to bridge gaps and take the divide that we see all too often and harmonize it. We want to see officers that help build trust in our communities. We want to see officers who can protect the community, protect and serve us, and do it in a way so that everyone is treated fair. There's another aspect about this case I just want to touch on. Some of you may be aware of a Deputy Sheriff Clinton Boomer who was shot and killed in Palmdale. There's a press conference on that earlier this week. One of the problems with the Sheriff's Department is that they don't have enough deputies. They're not hiring, they're not retaining. This means we have officers that are working unsafe hours of overtime. 4 deputies committed suicide in a short time frame there, and Officer Crutchfield was murdered. Pasadena Police Department is setting itself up for the exact same problem. They take an outstanding officer with a bright career, like Officer Crutchfield, and then you start to discipline her and go against her because she's doing the right thing. She doesn't believe in a code of silence. She doesn't believe in circling the wagons. She believes in integrity, honesty, safety. And you'll notice she's not here today because as a police officer, she can't talk. We have pictures of her and we have her family that's going to be able to talk to you in a moment about her dreams, her aspirations, her dedication, her education, her commitment to helping to protect and serve. When you have a fine young officer like that, a department should not treat her like garbage. This is a department who's had consent decrees in the past because of its hiring practices, where African Americans were not being able to be hired in a variety of jobs. It's not just the police department where you have racial profiling issues, racial discrimination issues. It's throughout the city. I would not be surprised if in the very near future we see class action lawsuits by members of all ranks and aspects of the city of Pasadena alleging racial discrimination. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to
Spell your name, please, Brad.
my name is Bradley, Bradley, Gage, Gage, Brad Gage Law in Woodlands Hills, California. And we're going to turn it over to Taisyn's dad, Tony.
Good morning, and first and foremost, I want to thank you guys all for being here. I stand here to Taisyn, my daughter. Taisyn, since she's a very young woman, made a decision that she wanted to be a police officer. One of my old football coaches, like, come here, and police officer at Pasadena. Pasadena was the place I called home. I grew up on the northwest side of Pasadena. Taisyn's goal is to be able to come out It's a bridging gap in our communities that affects all over the United States. Part of who we are as a people is to servicing others. And we take pride in what our helping and changing lives. But unfortunately, the situation happening in Taisyn is about that change. And I talked to her, those people both change, got that change. She chose to be a police officer. What my ideal profession for her, but I respect her, not on the front line. She can't help out. And again, bridge that gap that exists all over America between police departments and the city. She's going out there trying to do her best to de-escalate the situation. And unfortunately, it has brought us here. Taisyn's frustrated. She's unsettled. She's disappointed. In my conversation with her, the things that I know exist in our country are very new to her. She doesn't have the analysis of these kind of situations. And so I'm supporting her. I'm there for her, and we will fight this as long as it takes. Because we've got to thank some of the people that are thank us as people. We got to acknowledge what some of those problems are. And we got to, as people, stand up and do something about it. So again, I thank you guys all for being here and supporting us as well.
Can you give us your name and spell it, please?
Tony Crutchfield, CRUTCHFIELD.
Before I get started, I just want to make a clarification. Michael Cooper's brother was killed in Pasadena, but it was not by assault.
Thank you. I didn't mean to say it wasn't a police officer. I appreciate that.
My name is Jace Ward. I'm a 37-year retired Pasadena Police Department employee. It's disheartening to stand before you today regarding Taisyn. Just the background, I grew up in Pasadena. I was close friends with Taisyn's mom's family, mentored by her father, Taisyn's grandfather. I had the honor and the privilege to coach his dad at Jamia High School. And in turn, he had the honor and privilege to coach my son at Pasadena High School. At Jamia High School. I've known Taisyn all her life. When Taisyn informed me that she was interested in wanting to be a police officer, I mentored her. As she finished college, I recruited her to come to Pasadena. And it's unfortunate in my 37 years of police work with the police department, what is happening to Taisyn at this time is unprecedented. I stand behind the department as a police department. I stand behind what's right, and I'm going to stand behind this family in the fight for Taisyn Crutchfield.
James, what your name again, sir?
First name is Jayce, Jayce, last Ward.
So being a department veteran, does this surprise you, this type of activity, this reaction to what you did? Is this abnormal to the Pasadena Police Department?
For this instance, yes, unprecedented. Surprising to me.
How does it make you feel?
I'm disheartened.
Who are you alleging is discriminating against the chief, the supervisor, the sergeant? Can you please be more specific?
Well, I really don't want to get into those types of answers because, once again, I'm still affiliated with the police department. But I think when all of this comes to light, everything will come out.
And obviously, when you have systemic discrimination and systemic profiling, it's something that comes from the top down. It's not just one person that winds up engaging in discrimination. Some folks will say, well, gee, the chief here is black. How could there be discrimination? Well, you have a lot of history of discrimination in this particular city. And you have a systemic problem that's going on within many individuals that are in this department. So it's not just one person.
Can you share with us any other cases in Pasadena with systemic racism issues that stem from the leadership?
Yes, currently there are a number of cases against the city. There's a lieutenant who's African American who is sued. There are probably 3 or 4 different current lawsuits going on. There's a district court case called Baloo. And in that case, it was allegations of racial profiling against African Americans. The field interview cards were not initially produced by the city, and then they were ordered to be produced, and it showed a huge disparity in the number of black motorists that were being pulled over and profiled by the police. And they go hand in hand. Discrimination in the department translates to racial profiling in the community. Discrimination in the department translates to tragedies in the community. Because when you have racial profiling, people get upset and they're being unfairly treated. Sometimes tempers flare. Sometimes that results in tragedies like we have seen all over the country. George Floyd being just one of many examples.
What is Taisyn's actual status within the department? Explain that.
She is presently a patrol officer in the Pasadena Police Department, which is why she can't be here. We have pictures of her and family. But although she is still a police officer, she is working with a cloud over her head. They investigated her for doing the right thing, but they never shared with us what the findings were of that investigation. They said she might receive some discipline, but they won't tell us what that is. That's actually a violation of the Peace Officers' Bill of Rights, which is a law designed to protect all peace officers in the state of California from unfair treatment. It's about due process, letting folks know what is being alleged against them so they can defend themselves and respond to it.
Can you talk about the Bain Act and the Ralph Act violations that you're alleging in your claim?
The Bain Act, the Ralph Act, and other civil rights acts deal with individuals who are being treated differently because of their race. Often it involves claims of violence, but it can also include threats and intimidation. When you have police officers who are subjected to discrimination and different treatment because of their race, and they're threatened and intimidated by facing discipline without even being told why or what it is, that goes into civil rights violations as well. And the laws of discrimination and the laws of civil rights, they blend together because it's all the same thing. It all involves treating someone differently because of race or other protected characteristics, and that's what this is all about.
Can you also elaborate in your government 8-page claim? You talk about Taisyn being vulnerable and left possibly uncovered or without backup and being returned back into service without all of the support that she may need.
So the question was about backup to police officers after they complain or do the right thing, they get retaliated against. An unfortunate aspect of that is lack of backup. And in the government claim, I explained situations of other police officers that I've represented over the years, all of whom happen to either be Latino or African American, where when those officers filed claims, suddenly there's no more backup. Officers need backup from their coworkers because police work is dangerous. And if you don't get backup, you're faced with situations where you can be seriously injured or killed. We have a Riverside PA case of a woman not receiving backup by her coworker. She was strangled and left with brain damage. We had a case with an LAX PD officer. He did not have backup. He wound up getting slammed on background, back injury, and probably has to retire. We have another officer that can represent for Southgate Police Department. He had a man with a metal pole coming after him, called for backup, went, walked away from the man until it was at a wall, had no choice of trying to kill him. So lack of backup is literally a potential death sentence. Lack of backup is a form of retaliation that we know happens in police agencies. It's going to appear in the same case to all other whistleblowing officers who step forward to do the right thing and stop the departments from engaging in excessive force.
Can Mr. Ward explain the procedural process of the IA investigation and, you know, maybe give us some understanding why she wasn't given investigation reports procedurally?
I think he'd rather not, but I can explain it.
Thank you.
So an internal affairs investigation is a process in which a police department does interviews and investigates allegations that are being brought against an officer or violating administrative policies and procedures. And in connection with that, interviews are obtained, documents are reviewed, and then there is an adjudication. That means that commanders, lieutenants, captains, chiefs look at all this evidence and they decide whether or not there was a violation of an administrative procedure. And then if they decide there was a violation, some kind of discipline can be imposed. It could be a verbal reprimand saying, don't do this again. It could be training. It could be a written reprimand. It could be a suspension, demotion, or termination. After an officer is disciplined, or there's a proposal first for discipline. So the department is supposed to give you the information on proposed discipline. That's a requirement. Then peace officers everywhere in California have the right to read that, see the evidence, challenge it, and have hearings. And there's various kinds of hearings. Sometimes they're civil service, sometimes it's Skelly. But regardless of the name, officers are supposed to receive that information and the reasons why, so then they can say, those reasons don't make sense, and here is the evidence that explains it. In this case, the department has said, you're going to be disciplined. They won't say what. She's been returned to active duty, so we know she's not fired.
Is there any condition to that return?
She's been returned, and there's no condition. She was out there in the field working.
How long was she placed on leave?
She was placed on paid administrative leave for several months, approximately April or May is when it started, and it ended a week or so ago.
So it started in April or May. Ended,
What months?
Several months, yes.
or ended in November?
6 months.
So can you share with us, are there any videos that really kind of support the police position, your position? The reason why I'm asking that question, if you have a platform on here, you can explain to the media and get a resolution both for the civil and criminal if you got the evidence. Is that available to us?
There are videos of the events between Taisyn and the officer on the night in question. There are several videos of that. I don't know that I'm at liberty to share them, but I have seen them. And I do know each of you in the media can do a Public Records Act request. I'm happy to share with you the date and information that I have as to what we believe there should be. There should be body-worn cameras of several officers. There's probably dash cam cameras. And I don't recall off the top of my head the exact thing. I'm happy to provide that to you. And if each of you makes a Public Records Act request, I think you're going to find those videos are illuminating and interesting.
In another lawsuit, Brad, brought on by a current lieutenant of the department who alleges that there's a gang within the department, the Good Old Boys Club. Are there any similarities or through lines in the Crutchfield case that would relate back to that lawsuit?
That's an excellent question. And just to first follow up with your question, Officer, how you say it's nice to meet you. I'll take all your questions. That's fine. And I also will be my all right, so let me answer your question. If you think about the history of Pasadena, it's the Rose Bowl. And today they're selecting the Grand Marshal of the Rose Bowl. But what do roses have? They have thorns. What is a thorn in law enforcement? That thorn is a police gang. What is a police gang? A police gang is an organization within an organization where individuals collaborate together. Sometimes they have matching tattoos. Sometimes they have other types of gang affiliation. And they often, unfortunately, engage in conduct that seems to be discriminatory, retaliatory, and within the Pasadena Police Department, I am aware that there are some folks who have claimed that there are things in the police department. And so I would like to say, I hope it doesn't exist. I am familiar with LA Sheriff's Department having multiple gangs, Vikings, regulators, banditos. And I've seen the tattoos of those gangs. I know LAPD has gang problems, so I suspect that problem exists here as well. Sure.
Najee Ali, N-A-J-E-E, Ali, L-I. As an activist, I've led protests for over 30 years, all throughout Southern California and across the nation against the police and police departments. For the first time in my career, I'm here today to support Officer Taisyn because she deserves the community support. She deserves the support of an activist because she did the right thing. Pasadena residents have complained for decades that they've been racially profiled, abused, and sometimes unjustly murdered by Pasadena police officers. Officer Taisyn, to her credit, saw an officer doing something she thought he should not be doing, or abusing a young person, and she tried to de-escalate the situation. And now she's being punished by the department. In my closing, it doesn't matter what color the police chief is, black, white, or purple. It's the culture of police and police abuse that needs to be changed.
Can I say something?
Well said. Thank you.
Hello, but I'm kind of shy. She kind of reminds me of me. My name's Marie Ayaculo, and I'm sorry what is happening to her, of her, being honest with me, because I'm evicted from the Green Hotel apartments, and I paid rent faithful for 22 years. You can do the right thing, but you have these people. I respect the badge, but it's like, who is wearing the badge? And it's like, I represented myself, just left the court about 2 weeks ago, August 30th, 2023. And of course, they won because they're millionaires, but it's sad to do this. And this woman here, her honesty, again, reminds me of me because I'm very honest too. And as long as, you have a lot of hypocrites, and they will kill, steal, and destroy. And it's so sad. So people need to start being themselves and really, showing love to really helping people. And just be yourself.
Great, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
I also wanted to acknowledge and thank some folks for the Black media outlets, including Dominique Prima from KBLA, James Farr, LA Progressive. I also want to thank some of the activists who have come out here today. Najee Ali, Say Devermont, Bill Coronado. And these are folks and their organizations are helping to protect the community and to bring light into the darkness. And the fact that they're here shows that we have a good police officer who is helping to do the right thing in the community. Activists will come together with law enforcement. We can heal the wounds. Taisyn Crutchfield is a catalyst of healing the wounds and protecting our communities. And she should be receiving honors and rewards for what she did and what she is doing. She should not be a person who has to be represented because she's being treated differently and discriminated against.
The department said during the 6 months that he was off.
Last question.
They didn't say anything other than, you're being investigated. Thank you all.
We shall overcome someday. We shall overcome someday.
Oh, yes. I've been advised that the videos are on the website.